Childhood PTSD has a few names: complex PTSD, developmental trauma, and relational trauma. And that's because the way early trauma affects people is, in essence, an injury to that ability to be relational, to connect with people. And a lot of people with childhood PTSD want to be connected, but the whole process of doing that, meeting people, getting to know them, hanging out, getting through conflicts, stepping back, it can trigger so much neurological dysregulation, which is normal for CPTSD, and such a sense of not being safe that you might consciously or unconsciously avoid connecting with people as a way to manage your symptoms. And it makes total sense in the moment. And of course, some people's trauma was so great that they don't want to connect with people. So wherever you are on that spectrum, connecting and feeling close to people is hard, or it's something you don't want to deal with right now, you may find that your relationship with pets is the strongest and safest love that you've ever found. Pets, animals. So my letter today is from someone I'll call Pam, and she writes, Hi, Anna. I've been a long-time subscriber for a few years now, and I'm so happy to see how your channel has grown. Thank you. Recently, my best friend and pet, best friend/pet died, and I'm devastated. I'm going to circle things, Pam, with my fairy pencil here. I'll come back through, and I'll address what I circled. But let's read your letter all the way through so we can see what's going on. So your pet, who was your best friend, died. I feel like a leaf blowing in the wind without him here. I'm lonely and sad, and it's very quiet while I work from home, even with podcasts or music on, and even if friends virtually work buddy with me to keep me company. Work buddy, I guess that's where you work and you see each other on Zoom and you have a little company to work. That's cool. I have trouble focusing in general, but now without him here to bother me about our routines, I'm more likely to forget to eat or stop working. The other day in therapy, I was talking about this aspect, and I realized that due to my parents' neglect of me when I was very young, that it's quite possible that my childhood dog was a sort of parent to me growing up. For some quick background, I have cut contact with my blood family for over a decade now, for reasons of neglect, abuse of all kinds, and their unwillingness to change for a better relationship together. When I had a childhood dog, she was my whole world. I was not allowed to have friends or have friends over, and would rarely get to go over to a friend's house. Wow. My dog and I would play in the yard together for hours and hours in snow and sunshine, even sometimes in rain. She was my best friend and comforted me when I was sad and was happy when I was happy. It didn't occur to me until I was an adult that I was neglected as much as the dog would have been, left outside to fend for ourselves in whatever conditions happened. But at the time, I remember feeling safest with my dog as we played among the pine trees and ferns. Inside the house was scary and unpredictable. So if I had to go inside, I would escape by reading books or drawing in my room. And then when my dog died, I was similarly devastated to how I would feel now. And my parents did not understand why. They said I was too sensitive and dramatic. And that I needed to snap out of my sadness. I remember being very depressed and stuffing it down for years, and now I feel like it is all coming out with the death of my pet. I dislike using the term emotional support animal because it gets thrown around carelessly, but my most recent pet very much was, in many ways, my emotional support animal. I'm shocked and overwhelmed with all the emotions that are coming up for me right now, both around my pet that just died and the realization about my childhood dog that I love so dearly. How do I reconcile this? I haven't even really felt normal, and now this adds to that feeling. I feel so alien and different from many people. I'm working on finding another pup to not replace my most recent loss, but because I need the steadfast and predictable support and another creature to hold me accountable and take care of myself and them. Yeah. My husband is on board, and my friends seem supportive and caring about my situation. But I cannot help but feel like I'm broken and I should have healed enough to get away from needing a pet to soothe my childhood trauma that haunts me every day. Therapy has helped a lot, and I've grown so much. I recognize that I'm being really hard on myself, and maybe this is something else to talk about more in therapy. I know war veterans and other folks have service animals to help them, so why do I feel so guilty and bad about needing this kind of support for my trauma, that maybe I'm moving on too quickly from my recent loss? Should I just snap out of it and be normal? I wish this voice from my parents would just shut up. Thank you for any insights you might have. Okay, Pam, what a lovely letter. I just, my heart is flying out to you. And I relate, I understand. So when pets die, especially for people who don't have loved ones in their immediate life, who don't live with people, it can be as devastating as the loss of a partner or a child. And I totally understand that. We are designed to love, and we are going to love the creatures who are available to us. And animals are creatures, and especially dogs. Dogs have emotions. Dogs care. They do care. Dogs have love. Dogs are perceptive about what's going on with you. And I'm just really glad that when you were going through that childhood where they were abusive and neglectful of you, that you and your dog could go through it together and support each other. And I know it meant the world to your dog. And it's funny, when I got this letter, it just resonated with me. I had a dog that I got when I was 10, and I was really involved in caring for it. And then when I was a teenager, I wasn't so good at caring for it. And the dog was very neglected. And when I moved away from home, my parents sort of inherited the dog. I couldn't take it with me. And the dog was very neglected, had long fur that was matted in desert hot weather, and very alone, and didn't get taken for walks. And I always felt bad and guilty about the dog. And there was this sort of guilt trip that I had, but you know, I had gone off to college. I could not take the dog. And I had the same realization as you did, that if they would treat a dog like that, that was kind of how, that was how I was treated too. I was left to fend for myself, even when it was harmful. It's really sad, and it's also very good that we should have our hearts awakened like this, because we have coping mechanisms. We put things in a compartment so that we can get on with life, and you have. When you're sitting here and validating that you have a bunch of grief about the loss of the dog that was your close companion, the one person who was really with you, creature, who was really with you, who really loved you, and who brought joy into your life. What particularly jumped out about your letter is that you were not allowed to play with friends and you couldn't have them over. That's really harsh. But you did have a friend, you had your dog, and it's not enough, you know. As much as people call the dogs their fur babies, you know, and we love our pets. I mean, I have a cat. I just love her so much. And then I have actual human children too. And it's a little different, but it's along the same spectrum of the kind of love, very maternal love that I have. My cat is my friend. She's my buddy. We have little routines together. And I will be very sad because her lifespan is probably going to be a lot shorter than mine. She's 12 now. And we need love. We are wired to love, and different species do find each other and harmonize together, humans and dogs, humans and cats. I keep talking about this beautiful documentary I watched called The Elephant Whisperers, just a 40-minute documentary on Netflix if you want to watch it, about some people who care for baby elephants who got separated from their herds and who maybe are injured or hurt. You know, it's the sort of thing a person like you and me just really gets into. And I was crying and I was happy, and I watched these people just give loving care to these elephants and talk to them lovingly and wash them, and the elephants love them and follow them around. And I was just moved once again by how much creatures in different species can love each other like that and become attached like that. That's what we do. That's what we're designed to do. And when it's happening, when our love is flowing like that for another creature, we're fulfilling what we are. We're loving people. We are loving people. So you also have a husband and you have friends, you said, and that's so delightful. Like you were able to have that despite everything that happened to you. But I totally get there's a way that the unconditional love is something dogs are capable of. Cats, a little less so. My cat can be pretty feisty, but dogs, they just love you no matter what. And we need that unconditional love. And what you said about they keep you accountable, you have to take care of yourself. You know, you can't just like stay in bed for 3 days. You have to walk the dog and feed the dog and pay attention to the dog. And they're just like these creatures who come along and call the best of us out to come forward and be on earth and be our best selves and function and care for things. When we care for other living things, that is one of the most beautiful things that people do. And then they don't live as long as us. There's this inherent sadness and loss. So C.S. Lewis has a book. This is about human love, and it's about marriage, in fact. And this is not a marriage, but I think there's something in here that reflects on what we're talking about. The book is called A Grief Observed. When C.S. Lewis is the English writer who wrote the Narnia Chronicles, but he also wrote quite a series of theological books and philosophical books. Very interesting and influential person in our culture. And when he was 60 years old, he fell in love really for the first time. And it was a writer friend of his from the United States named Joy Davidson. There's a movie called Shadowlands with Anthony Hopkins and Deborah Winger. It's kind of hard to find, but it's a lovely movie about their relationship. And he had never really loved like that before. And they get together, and this is part of the story. You sort of know it early on. She has cancer. She has cancer when they get together and is not expected to survive. And they're in a position to have to enjoy the time they have, however long that may be. And there's this little passage. I've read the book as well. I've read the book and seen the movie. There's a little passage that's really the kernel of the whole book. That's why love is so beautiful, why it's so precious when we have those moments of great connection and love, is because built into all love is an ending. There's an ending where one of us will die, and we will be separated, and it's always built into every relationship, and that's part of it. And reading this book, I read this book when I was bereaved, when my partner had died, and it helped me to understand that the loss of a person or creature who we love is not the thing going wrong. It's not life failing us. It's part of the whole experience of love. It's always built in. It has to end this way, that one of you dies first. And both beings always know. I don't know. Well, do dogs know this? I don't know. I don't know if they know that death is in the picture, but we know. And that's what makes love so sweet. Now, as for getting another dog, I'm glad you're thinking about it. And in your own time, when you're ready, that will happen, and it's okay. It's okay. And that dog, too, is likely to not live as long as you, I presume, with a little luck. And that will be built into that relationship, too. It's part of the depth of love, is that the separation is always built into it. When you were traumatized as a kid, this can feel like a terrible mistake of the universe, that it should ever be this way. Now, we don't know what happens after we die. We'll find out, right? We'll find out later. But it's not a mistake. It's built in, it's baked into the cake of our experience of being alive. Life is poignant. Love is precious. The present time when something good is happening is infinitely precious. And so I hope you'll be able to allow yourself to have the sadness, because it is sad, and face what comes up just as you'd have permission if it were a human in your life. It doesn't matter what everybody else thinks. The grief is here. You're having the grief. You get to have it. We have tools here that can help you kind of process your feelings. And, I invite you to, check out the courses and the quizzes that we have and the groups that we have. If you would like some support, many, many people in our membership program have grieved the loss of a pet while in the program. And we support each other. Love is love. Love is love. And grief is grief. And then it passes. We grow past it, and we become open to having some new experiences. And that is the nature. That is the nature of mature life, is that we will learn to face life's ups and downs with equanimity. And that's what happens with healing from trauma. So if anybody listening to this feels like trauma has affected their ability to connect with people, as you've sort of described here, Pam, it's good that you have pets, but if you're working on the people aspect of it, I have a quiz that lists a whole series of symptoms that trauma may have affected your ability to connect. There's a lot you can do about it, but it begins with sort of identifying how it may have affected you. So it's called the Connection Quiz. And if you want to take it, you can click right here and download it and get started from there. So I send my love, Pam, and I'll see you all very soon.